experience. We all know that there have been human rights commissions in the city of Portland before, and they've gone away. We need to learn from that experience. We need to make sure that we do something here that is too powerful to be put away. And we also need to look specifically at what the mayor and city council has charged us with and what the task before us is in terms of our mission and our function. And in order to get there, I want to turn this over to Maria Lisa Johnson, who is the director of the city's Office of Human Relations, and ask her to walk us through a little bit of our charge and our history and our path forward. So Maria Lisa, and maybe if you don't mind, Maria Lisa, talk a little bit first, too, about what brings you here, what makes you want to be part of this office and working with us.
I'm truly speechless. I've met with many of you, as you said, I'm humbled and proud of your experience. Like I said before council, there are more than 200 years of struggle and activism in the street. And what brings me here is, it's hard to put into words, but I come from a very political family, a father who really pushed social activities and was kind of quite on the side doing that work in a very not visibly involved behind the scenes. And I grew up in Lima, always with the mindset of you have to have that vision of those who have less, those who are less fortunate in front of you. And I spent the last 8 years working in an organization called Latino Network that advocates for the rights and the experience and leadership of Latinos who are immigrating into this country. And was also recently involved in the local race and advocacy in that experience. And I think all those small pieces are what bring me here to do the support work that will allow you to move through the commission that is meaningful and significant, that can take things forward in a different way. And back to the question of time, there were many commissions, there were several commissions. And they started in 1948, just at the passage of the Declaration of Civil Rights. So the first Institutional Relations Commission. In 1966, it started, it had staff. In 1969, it became broader. It included Montgomery County. It was called the Metropolitan Human Relations Commission. It had 15 council members, just as we do today. But in 1997, it was defenders, it was demoted, it became a program in the Office of Neighborhood Involvement. And then in 2002, it was finally cut. So it became, it was decommissioned in 1997, 11 years ago. And the history is there. It's written, it's in your lovely packet in the background of the vehicle. But you don't have written down the lies, the stories around why. And as I've been working with different folks who were part of those commissions, or who were trying to access the commission, and hearing stories about the lack of focus of some of those commissions, the prioritization of international work with those issues around trying to get on to present before looking home and seeing what was going on. Also, the commission composition itself at times was difficult, where members came together and they had a particular agenda to push and couldn't come together really on a consolidated human rights agenda that was fighting one another. And another reason that gets articulated is the politicization of the Human Rights Commission. And it is a challenge because I do see its work as highly political. It is what we're here for, it's in our belly. And yet, I think what has been sort of up and down with that work is that the Commission in prior years didn't take the time to fully understand or investigate the issues that were being brought before them, and took positions before taking that time to really understand. And so, got into political debate, the differences with the mayor, and then eventually the support was deleted. So, as I said, I met with many of you. I am in awe of the food. It's a wonderful group of people coming together with a lot of company experience, and I think you will enjoy Jeff's company and also being able to share in the experiences that will create I think more focused on that one day. I'm supposed to talk a little bit about your mission and function. And the mission we have before you, it's very clear on the agenda. But the function is something I haven't articulated to you past. If you look to your first section in your document, on page 4 of that document that put together the work that created the Office of Human Relations and Human Rights Commission, we see that there are a number of things that are expected of the Commission. One is to develop ways to measure and monitor community relations. So we're a Human Rights Commission with a Human Relations mandate. And what Kathleen says about the human relations aspect of the work, the getting to know one another is truly a part of this work. We will be that first, we hope to be that first responder to conflict, and to be able to understand what truly is going on so that we can then provide some proactive responses. We're supposed to anticipate community tensions and then respond with education, with intervention, with some proactive programs. We will offer a range of programs, and I'm going to introduce by name our staff. Muhammad from Alia. Please, who will be in charge of education work and community outreach. And many of you have met Kofi. He comes from Togo. And he has about 18 years of human rights reporting experience in Africa. And then Paul Alani, he's our immigrant and refugee affairs coordinator, and will be in charge of creating avenues for access for our new community. So we have been fortunate to do things in ways. So we'll engage underrepresented groups, and we will evaluate issues that come before us for bias, discrimination. We will look at local government entities and local agencies that have a big impact on us. And we've already seen some of that work coming forward. Okay. So again, I mean, Jeff, you articulated very well. We have a need for strategic focus, and in our conversations with everyone, we have articulated that to nature. I don't doubt that will be a filter for you as you take on a human rights, a craft of human rights agenda. I want to share with you a document that is not in your binder, and that is the concept of an organizational chart of what we're coming together as a new office in the Bureau. It is a bureau. It is the smallest bureau in the city. Now we're going to get around. And we're lucky in that past efforts didn't have the political protection that was brought to this new bureau. Past efforts were completely under the mayor's office. This time around, the Office of Human Relations and support to the Human Rights Commission, in order for it to be removed, it needs a 5-member vote. In order for it to be dismantled, it needs a 5-council-member vote. So it's much more protected than the prior efforts.
Do we have confidence?
I'm sorry, I think we do have a few, but if you can circulate first to the committee, I appreciate it.
Oh.
Yeah, the folks can be able to follow along. We have a few. So I'll walk you through briefly, and some of you have seen it. Essentially, this Office of Human Relations reports directly to the mayor, but also to the Human Rights Commission. The mayor has the authority of appointing, but Congress having this opportunity to accept that appointment. But in order to remove that function, we need the 5-member board of council. So here we have that mutual relationship. We have an advisory board as well, and anything goes out there, the political relationship, and we'll get a chance to talk a little bit more about the advisory board and folks say, what is this? Why do we need The vision of that advisor will truly continue to provide individual support to positions that we've been serving as workforce team and presenting to council, also the community at large. You have on the left side of the chart our staff, executive assistants, and education and outreach, community outreach program coordinators, and then the refugee program coordinator. Now, under the Human Rights Commission, this is the part that you get to really define a little more specifically. My hope is that you will appoint an executive committee of the Human Rights Commission, and that committee will have a couple of officers and the chairs of standing committees. And my recommendation to you as the chief executive, is that you create a police committee mediation committee that is a standing committee. Part of the ordinance that created us, and you will see that again in your documents, is that our office must take on the work of the racial profiling community. And so this allows us to take on a community relations, police community relations approach to that work. And more will come around that.
Did you say to take on the work of the racial profiling?
Take on the community. Take on, yes. It's currently in the mayor's office, numerous houses. So you'll have opportunity again to define this. And part of what we wanted to do tonight was to ask you, so this is a proposed chart. Clearly, this needs more definition. In the coming months, you will get a chance to define that. There is no framework currently that I'm handing to you. Really, it's about you defining it. But I can assist in some of that. And one of the tools that I brought tonight, so that you don't spend a year creating your bylaws, which other commissions have done, or councils have done. I have put some time into drafting bylaws. And these bylaws, they come from a number of sources. They're faithful to the ordinance that created the Human Rights Commission in the office. They also draw from the guidelines for effective human relations commissions that the U.S. Department of Justice published, and also from bylaws of the suggestions of the California Association of Human Relations Organizations, and bylaws from Santa Barbara and San Francisco Human Rights Commission. They've been reviewed by the city attorney, but they're draft. And what we'd like for you to do is to keep a going over, and at the next meeting, be prepared to discuss and adopt or change and adopt these bylaws so that you have control of all the things for how you accomplish all these activities.
I want to just reiterate that one point. This is some staff work, really good staff work and release that is done in terms of creating a framework for us to consider. We are adopting bylaws. They can be these bylaws, they can be different bylaws. It's up to us collectively as a commission to decide how we're going to govern ourselves. This is a starting point, this is a good starting point, but we collectively will make the decisions on whether this is the guidelines we want or not.
There's one additional piece to the structure, and that is the new law should be going to the budget process, and then will be cut. Every year is asked to present a cut package, and also asked to form a budget advisory committee. And I've already asked Commissioner whether she's going to sit on that committee, but we can have other folks as well. It may not be a committee, it can be a commission around the office of communications. If anyone is interested in participating in that budget advisory process, I would welcome that. We started out small, and now we can begin to propose some additional guidelines. So, again, the role of the advisory board is important to define, and they will be meeting next week. It would be great if one of you who has time could attend that meeting and articulate the functional board after you've had some time to review more information. There is some confusion about what their role is, and it would be very helpful to articulate that here inside and take that message to them. They will be meeting for there is no ordinance backing their solution, so it was really a suggestion that we made in the office to appoint an additional body for PSI and write it out with some strong point.
How do you see the advisory board and the Human Rights Commission communicating with each other, even at this kind of tender beginning point? I mean, if they're having a meeting next week, how?
I think that's a great question, and it's actually just the kind of question we need to be asking and answering, because that question and questions along the lines of how we make decisions and how we communicate with each other, that's all undecided at this point. And I think really what it is on our agenda, I would say, on the top of our agenda for our next meeting, to begin to determine that. Because what we have is a very broad outline of the structure. We know what our goals are very broadly. What we don't know is how we're going to go about doing that. And it's really incumbent upon us to make that decision. I don't think that specific question is called out in the bylaws, but when you look at the bylaws, you'll see that they do contemplate ways in which we can make decisions. And I think that we're going to have to flesh that out. There is, as far as I'm concerned, there's no answer yet, but for the one that we decide collectively.
Am I right that the meeting of the advisory board is a public meeting under the Oregon Public Meeting Law?
Just as ours are, yes.
So will you be letting us know when that meeting is if we wanted to go, or are you is Jeff going as a representative?
I actually didn't even know what was happening. So
if you look at the trail of emails, and some of us have email people, there is a date there, it's November 12th, 3 to 5. We're trying to create a space in the new office, but we may not be set up to happen yet. And the way that I would like that meeting to go is really most of the meetings going to the first meeting and understand what the Human Rights Commission is really about and how they can support that work. So having that mutual connection between the commission and the advisory board. It is an advisory board that may be around for a year in the future when there's a functional body and we decide to keep it longer. It's really an experimental body right now.
Excuse me. You have such a sweet face. No one can.
And I think that's how
I read this in depth. The first question that occurs to me is, what kind of access do we have to data from the city that will support the research that we will need to do in order to draw data-driven conclusions and make recommendations? So that's police department, fire bureau, water bureau, anything.
Good question. We had a research position that was cut from this office when the office was first created. So we don't have an actual dedicated staff to do research, which means that the commission itself will need to do some research and also staff currently in the office. We have access to whatever data that we provided. I mean, we can ask for it. The challenge always with public entities is getting what you really want to look at and getting it in a timely manner. And for that, we need relationships. Because the stronger the relationships, the better the data and the access to that data. I had offers from the planning bureau to come and present to you some of the demographic data for Portland in the past 10 years, how it's shifted, and overlying that with economic data so that you can get a picture of this community, what it was, where it's heading, and that may help you define human rights agenda broadly. In terms of city data, for instance, around the police bureau, that I think requires a long-term commitment to a community process and some relationship building within the bureau, because we can get pretty cryptic data or we can get solid data. And the bureau is now working on getting a better handle on its own data. But having been part of the racial profiling community, I think it is a challenge, and it is a topic that always gets us stuck, always. So it will require persistence.
I just wonder if the conversation just goes into general how we want to govern ourselves. Or I don't want to move forward if that's not the way you want to go with the conversation. So I do have some questions.
I think that conversation is open. I think that we have a few minutes that we can discuss it now. It is my intention, it was our intention that at our next meeting, that be essentially the core functions. The notion, frankly, was that this meeting is primarily our getting to know each other meeting, and the next meeting we start to get into the substance of how we're going to operate as a Human Rights Commission. And by the way, just as an aside, with respect to, I forgot to mention this earlier. As I said earlier, I was honored to be named the interim chair of this commission. Interim is actually a really important definer there. It's not my expectation that I'm going to continue to chair this commission ad infinitum. My hope is that in the fairly near future, as we define issues like how we're going to operate, what kind of committee structure we have, how we're going to make decisions, we also will collectively decide who should be the chair, and if there's going to be a vice chair, who should be the vice chair. And I feel like my role here is just to get us going, and then this group needs to collectively make these decisions as a group.
Jeff had asked that we consider having elections of officers next week. If you're prepared to do
And if we're not
that.
prepared, maybe one after that, but fairly quickly, I think it's appropriate.
So my basic question is, when we have our next meeting, it's so awesome to have staff. I'm so excited because many of the things I work on don't have staff at all. All the commissioners have to do it, so it's awesome to have you guys. Will you all be putting together a, I don't know what you call it, sort of a template as to how we would operate that we could then work from, or are we, is that in the bylaws? Not having read them.
The bylaws is a significant piece of that. It's not going to answer all the questions. We've already had questions that have been raised that are really good ones that weren't even addressed there. But I think that the bylaws is a starting point for that conversation. And to the extent that people have ideas over the course of the next few weeks before we meet, raise them and we can make sure they're on the agenda. But really, we're creating this together as we move along.
Yeah, I think it will be very helpful because to tackle this issue as soon as possible, especially when we experience like the first even week of just trying to overcome the excitement of becoming a commissioner of one issue that arose and went through emails, etc.
Right.
Is to know the limits of the challenge of Human Rights Commission and also to limit the confusion. It's very important to talk about the advisory board role as well. And are we able to separate emails? Because we're going to do sometimes with confidentiality, with some expectations. We need to discuss that. Because sometimes I have no idea who is this person in charge of what, is it responsible for what. And the last thing is to put anybody at risk or of ourselves stepping on somebody else's shoes. So that's what I would recommend, is that the first thing we do.
I absolutely agree with that. It's certainly my hope that we are able to, during our next meeting, essentially make these decisions about how we're going to go forward, how we will handle communications among ourselves and with the general public, and what the relationship with the advisory board will be. I really think that should be the goal for our next meeting, and hopefully we'll be successful in getting there. I want to just take a moment to also say we are a public body, and as a public body, we are subject to the open meeting requirements in the state of Oregon. One piece of that is that at all of our meetings, we need to provide opportunity for the public to comment at our meetings. And I think given the time, I don't know, there may or may not be that, but I want to, at this moment, provide that opportunity. If there is anyone here who is not a member of the commission who is interested in making public comment to the commission, right now is a time at which you could do that. So please feel free to just, you can come up if you want to. I'm not sure exactly what the most easiest place to sit would be, but you can sit, you can stand. Please just identify yourself and let us know what's on your mind.
I'm not quite finished with the items. Is there, if there's other people, I'd like to go afterwards. I was just
I'm not sure. Is there anyone else who would like to go first? Looks like you've got the floor to yourself.
Okay, my name is Jesse. Hill, call me Jesse. If you want to be formal, you can call me Mr. Hill, Mr. Chairman. The 5 things I wanted to address is, one, as you can see, I'm kind of a colorful person. And one thing that helps with meetings is after you elect officers, if you color code the officer's name tags in some way, on red paper or maybe a little more easier, chair, vice chair, treasurer, secretary, anything else, then someone walking in instantly without knowing the name knows the function. Staff could be yellow. I had to ask who's the clerk, and the clerks. They're all black and white. I can't tell. And then white can be just a regular commission member. Secondly, on an agenda, it's normally best to have proposed on it, but you put it in brackets because it imitates a Post-it note. It's proposed until it's adopted, and then you can just scratch it off or leave it as is. And then sometimes I've been to meetings where in the morning it was one version, and right before the other meeting something was added. Then you would also have to have, maybe in parentheses, revised with the little footnote to, well, this item was added, this item was deleted. And again, brackets means something that's not there anymore. It was, but you're to visually ignore it. Third item is, that was the third item. Fourth item is, if you can have a sign-in sheet, or two, one for all commission. I'm sure there's one for the commission members that they sign in, unless staff just checks off a previous list. And the fifth item, I can't think of, so I'll probably bring it to you next month. That concludes my remarks.
Absolutely. Thank you for do that there. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else who would like to add any other public comment? Okay, in that case, we have a few more minutes for our own internal conversation.
I'd like to say thank you. Since Mr. Hill mentioned color coding, I had shared with Maria Lisa a wonderful thing that I did, which was to find out people's personality types. We've all taken these multi-phases, and I've done a billion of them, but this one was the best one I've ever done. And it's color coding, and it's really helped me to for the first time, understand some of the dynamics that are going on in relationships with various people. And it just says there's 4 different types of personalities. There's the red that comes from a position of power, the blues that come from a position of interpersonal relationship, the whites that come from a position of peace, and the yellows that are party now. And it's really great because once you know a person's personality, then you know how to proceed to deal with it. And I think we have a commission here full of people with powerful personalities. Each of you is extremely successful in your own right and an entity to be reckoned with. And I think that it's real important for us to get past that, what is it I'm trying to say? Kind of break down those barriers of personality so that we can get to the crux of the matter. And there's a website I'll share with Maria that we all take an inventory, and it really kind of helps if you go, oh, this person, if this person's a red or this person's a blue, this is where they're coming from, because certain personality types don't get along as well. And it's the nature of the beast. It is not personal, but we have a job to do here. We've been given a mandate, and I think it's really important that we go beyond our personal communication style and learn what is the communication style that will work best for the group.
And you can share that?
Yes, I'll share that with you.
I was on the Oregon State University Board of Visitors and Minority Affairs for 12 years. The first agreement that we made on that board was that we would not fight because we were competing for resources or competing. What we decided was that we would believe one another. That if somebody came and said, this hurts, or that needs to be corrected, that we would believe one another. For the 12 years that I was there, we didn't have a fight. Essentially, we had one person who occasionally wanted to rise up and fight, and everybody would sort of go, not here. But think about that as a way of operating. Just decided to have sort of an operational dialogue as opposed to an argument.
That's a great idea. It really worked for 12 years.
Well, I was on the program. It's not what happened.
If I may add to what you say, Brian, one of the challenges that I think we will be facing constantly is an interesting paradox. One of them is that we sustain ourselves simply because we have a very clear understanding of who we are. And whether that is a biogenetic set of traits or a socially constructed, such as identity, gender, and so forth, what that does, on one hand, it gives us exactly that strength, that base from which we can take on challenges and opportunities, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, it is precisely that commitment that anchors to that ultimately predisposes us to others. And so, if we are indeed committed to the notion of human rights, then we shall therefore overlook that stuff that gives us identity. Because, after all, we are members of the same family. But it is those other factors, that will come and the way will be tested by that. And from that perspective, and particularly since we have been injured, or if we have been injured, or our communities have been displaced or set aside and brushed aside by society, it's from that place that we may ultimately create some of the dynamics that get in the way of us working together. The point is, and it's been said in so many different ways here, and I think that is really wonderful, that it is ultimately to the reflection that we get by seeing each other and seeing ourselves in each other, that we are going to be able to ultimately, move away from defending what is mine as opposed to expressing what is yours. So, if there's something that I'd like us to be reminded of, and I'd like to be reminded if for some reason I go to that place and celebrate for that place, because that is not what is going to save. That's it, that keeps us apart. So I just wanted to say that. But I'm very well put.
It seems like though it would be really good to go through set of principles of separating suicide interaction, because that is a crucial reminder.
Yeah.
And I also need to say that the document that was put together as far as framework for action, which is going to be a background document, brainstormed off of a vision that was prior to this commission. And so if you can look at that and see if that is a vision that encompasses this work as well, if you can appeal to that. Because there was some development work that happened prior to the forward of the commission, and it needs to be looked at, revised, but there's some things and some things to be seen. And since we have staff, we can also ask us to create policies for you, policies around communication, around whatever it is that is investing in
Well, I think what I'd actually suggest to folks is that if you have ideas along the lines of what Jorge just suggested, Kathleen just suggested, or Yana suggested, just a tool in terms of how we can try and make sure that we work together well and respect each other and try not to get stuck on things. Why not start with emailing those suggestions to Maria Lisa, who can compile them, and we'll have that be part of our conversation next week, next month. We'll be along with the bylaws, just so that we can, I really do think it's very important that we start off with principles and guidelines that help us in terms of how we're going to address the difficult issues that we're going to be confronting. So I think that to all folks, one of the charges I would ask you in the coming weeks is to think about those kinds of issues, about the ways in which you think we may face challenges, and the tools you might be familiar with that you think would help us to overcome those challenges, and share them with Maria Lisa, who can compile them and will present them for us at the next meeting.
Being that we hadn't even had a meeting and had to deal with an issue,
Yeah.
I found that way less than optimal as a way to make decisions. In fact, it was really difficult. Between now and next month, something might happen. I was wondering if we could come up with just a quick interim way that we all agree upon to make decisions if they need to be made, and hopefully they won't. I hate to put that out there like that, but I can't go through what we went through the last time. None of us even some of us barely knowing each other, and having emails rapidly coming back and forth. It was so less than ideal. I was really pleased with all the way that you all handled it in the end, but it's just not the way, I think that's the way we do it more.
Yes.
Yeah, I do, but I don't know if you can do it in 10 minutes, would be to pick an interim executive committee between now and next month and have those decisions go to that interim executive committee, then come out to the full commission, and then have the commission respond to what the executive committee has come up with. Either that, or you could go back the way that it was done before, when Lisa and Jeff working together and sending it out to all of us. I would recommend not sending it to the advisory committee at the same time. I found that difficult, as you did. I'm serious, this is only a month's worth of a way to deal with something. I don't really know. No,
As a volunteer who's retired and has hundreds of hours available to do all sorts of things, I'm very thankful for the staff work that produced the work we have before us. It's really incredibly helpful. As a person who wants to become passionately part of an ongoing adventure as we're starting now, I want to make sure that I can own the entity. So to me, process is very important, hugely important. I would rather not make a decision on an emergency that might befall us than to accelerate our process. I think our work is going to be long range. It's going to have incredible implications for generations down the road. So I don't like to be pressed into making decisions on some critical issue that I can always go as a person. And I can invite all of you to go with me. And we can say we are members of the Human Relations. We don't have to say on behalf of the Human Rights Commission. So I prefer some sense of process, balancing it out with staff work that allows each and every one of us to really own the process. The mission statement is wonderful, but I am so used to being part of the developers of mission statements of groups that I'm a part of. I can buy into it. It's a wonderful statement. It really is. Bylaws, oh, thank God you did them. Thank God you did them. Those are important, but I like what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at them. But the other stuff, I'm scared to nominate any one of you to become a chair and vice chair at the next meeting. Well, we don't know each other, but the other dynamic, which in some of the other commissions that I served on, we had a process of ensuring that everyone was given the opportunity to voice. Some of us are not as extrovert as others. And in the silence that happens, we may be missing a most powerful leader in our midst. So how do we address that in youth? And those, I think, come through process. The storytelling that we did today was very helpful because, we all were invited to share. I hope we continue to do a moment of sharing at every single meeting so that we can continue to share stories and experiences. And in that way, really become the family, the beloved family that Portland can model themselves after. So patience, process, and alacrity, all at the same time.
Thank you. I have to say that my information is with you. I agree with you, Emily, that what happened was less than ideal, and it's obviously possible in the next few weeks something like that might happen again. But given that we have 5 minutes left at this point, and I really do think that the way we come together around these decisions is important, I would ask that we just hope for the best. If something happens in the meantime, really, and we'll it'll be incumbent upon Lisa to help work with us to come up with a response. Hopefully, there is no emergency in the next 4 weeks, and at the next meeting, we can come up with a process that we all buy into and that we all own.
As Hector said, that may take longer than one meeting.
It might. Anyone else? Well, at this point, I'm sorry, yes,
You just talked about operating internally, and at the same time, we need to be thinking about how we will operate in terms of the external pressure that we will be experiencing. How we will consider setting priorities, what kinds of things we will think about in terms of figuring out direction. Because we're going to get inundated with
that's very true. Undoubtedly correct.
If I may add a footnote to this, what happened here, and that one, the comment that you made is very, very important. You see, obviously we know that there's going to be a lot of pressure on us to perform when we are not even close to considering how to perform. So this process stuff is very important because the time will come, and not that I can see to the future, but I've seen this stuff before, that we will be tested precisely by those external demands. And that's exactly when we need to be sure that we understand one another, we can count on each other, we are comfortable with each other. And that takes time, unfortunately, but I think that process is absolutely essential.
Well, I just want to, first of all, I want to make sure everyone knows our next meeting is on December 3rd. Make sure you get that on the calendar. And I just want to take a moment to thank each of you for being willing to commit this much of your time and your energy and to volunteer, frankly, for something that is to be better with our entire community. That's something that we all really are fortunate and will benefit from collectively. So thank you, each and every one of you, for agreeing to be on this mission. And I look forward to working together to realize our very ambitious goals. So,
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.